Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor, bringing you another video on how to raise your vibration so you can live your best life. Let's talk today about consciousness and raising your consciousness. I'm going to keep this one pretty short and sweet because it's kind of silly, but kind of obvious, but still worth mentioning. So, we sometimes overcomplicate things, many times. We as human beings, we overcomplicate things. So, think about the term raising your consciousness and ask yourself, what does that mean? Let me oversimplify and say, raising your consciousness means increasing the amount of time that you are conscious. That we have been historically, especially myself in my early years up until about 25, 27, I was unconscious all the time. I remember when that fateful day when I saw my therapist, and I got lucky and I had a good therapist, and he gave me a book called The Peaceful Mind. And I was going through depression and I didn't really realize it, probably wasn't even ready to acknowledge it or admit it. And yet he gave me that book, and it literally was like a light bulb went on. I was like, holy crap, could not believe that the first 27 years of my life, I literally was living in the dark. I felt like I had been in a dark room my entire life and somebody just turned the light bulb on. That's what it felt like to be asleep, to be on autopilot, to be in my subconscious programs, to be in my trauma programs my entire life until I was 27 years old. And it was the first time I said, I can't believe they didn't teach me this in school. To be conscious of your thoughts. It is the number one foundational lesson. To be conscious of your thoughts, to be conscious of your beliefs, and to choose them with intention. So to raise your consciousness means to stay conscious of your life. To raise your consciousness means I've been conscious this much and now I'm conscious that much. It's not that complicated. And yet, I will say this, it might be annoying when I say it's super simple. I agree. I have been in that experience before where I hate it when people are like, it's easy, and it doesn't feel easy when you're in it. It only seems easy when you've done it and you're on the other side. So in all fairness, I understand that I'm saying this is super simple and complex, or super simple, not complex, and yet it can be challenging to step into when you first are learning how to do this. So the goal is just be aware and start to notice when you become unaware. And so I talk a lot about trauma healing, healing the unworthiness wound, healing the belief of not enoughness, the lack mentality, the world's not safe. All of these things are trauma responses. The trauma is housed in the limbic brain. The limbic brain is in charge of your fight or flight function. Also in the vagus nerve, which is close to the limbic brain or the brain stem, will help you switch back into rest and digest, which is the feminine, receiving, magnetism, creation, versus fight or flight, which is resistance, fighting, doing God's job, all that fun stuff. The stress state that we all live in or have lived in, many of us, for most of our lives on this plane. So let's think about, how do we raise our consciousness? The point is that the limbic brain is the one that houses the subconscious programs. Likely, if you ever felt unsafe, unseen, unheard, uncared for, or unloved for an extended period of time, likely in your childhood, but any point in your lifetime for a sustained period of time, then you are dealing with something called complex trauma. It sounds like a big thing, but really globally, we're all dealing with it. If you even just look like at the unsafe factor, if you felt unsafe for an extended period of time, you have complex trauma. Well, the world felt unsafe for 2 years because of COVID. So congratulations, we're all in this together. Don't feel bad about it, but just know what we're working with. This is kind of my mission, is to help people understand we've got a program. It's in the limbic brain. The limbic brain overrides the intelligent brain every day, all the time. And so until we get the trauma up and out of there, we are going to be dealing with a glass ceiling that is going to keep us from moving anywhere in life that doesn't seem safe to the brain, right? So again, I understand this is sort of a long tangent around how to stay more conscious, but know that the subconscious programs are when we are unconscious. That's when we're not conscious anymore. We're acting from a program. We're acting from a belief of unsafeness, not enoughness, the brain's job is to keep you safe. And so if it feels like you are unsafe in any way, it's going to sabotage you. It's going to override your intelligent brain, and you're going to go offline. Almost not, yeah, well, almost literally, you're offline. So the limbic brain, the brain stem, when you go into fight or flight, this swells, and it literally detaches the prefrontal cortex that's in charge of intelligent function. It becomes offline. You cannot think. So if you've ever had test anxiety, and you go into the testing hall, and you studied for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you know this material inside and out, but all of a sudden you sit down and you look at that piece of paper and your mind is blank, and you're like, why can't I find the information? Or another example would be stage fright. I had the worst stage fright. I took a Spanish class at tech school before I transferred to the university, and I had to give a speech in Spanish. I'm terrified of being in front of people, let alone trying to speak another language. It was a hot mess. I was embarrassed. I left because I couldn't do it. And my intelligent function was offline. There was no recalling any of the words that I needed to recall. So, if we are going to remain conscious, we have to understand our subconscious programs. We have to notice when we go offline. We have to notice when something seems to take over, and that's not what I would have chosen to say, or that's not how I would have chosen to behave. Start to notice those things and get help, because you can't heal complex trauma alone. You absolutely must have a therapist, a coach, a mentor, someone like me, someone else, doesn't matter. Look for brain spotting. If you don't work with me, look for somebody that can do brain spotting, because it is the most effective tool, bar none. I've tried everything, promise you. I've got 8 out of 10 of the ACEs, so I can tell you adverse childhood events. I can tell you I'm the human guinea pig. Let me just tell you that brain spotting is the one thing that worked for me. And I will say that many things made this much of a difference. Brain spotting made this much of a difference, and quickly and easily. It was not as painful. And I would say the hardest part is just showing up, your willingness to do the work, to look at it, and to move through it. Because when we move through it, then we're no longer dealing with it. So in order to ascend, right? Ascension is the raising of consciousness. Become more conscious more of the time. Notice your subconscious programs. Get help with the things that make you go unconscious. Those are going to be your trauma triggers. And then get ready to welcome in the bliss of being who you were made to be, instead of living in fear controlled by these trauma responses. All right, I'm going to keep this one short because I said I would, and I'm getting long. But I love you guys. Please do make sure you like, subscribe, and share. A little emoji comment is extremely helpful for the YouTube algorithm. Otherwise, make sure you click this button to subscribe, or watch this video, which is customized to your preferences. All right, take care, my friends. I love you.